afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome everyone to episode 55 of the Fusion Cast. Happy to be joined today by Marcel Hergaarden from our Ceph team. So we're going to change gears a little bit today, and we have a really cool recent announcement, actually very recent. Last week we announced version 7 of IBM Storage Ceph. Fun fact, this is the 4th release of IBM Storage Ceph since Ceph was brought over as part of the transition of data services into IBM January 1st, which is pretty awesome. So Marcel and his team have been super busy, which is great. And there's some great stuff in this release that we want to really talk about. So Marcel, thanks for joining us, and thanks for sharing this cool release. So, let's dive right in. What are the key messages or the key feature enhancements or part of this release that you want to really kind of draw our attention to?
Hi, Randy. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, actually, there are multiple things going on here. The most important one is that we now have certification for object lock, which actually means that we have warm functionality for objects in IBM Storage Ceph. And this has been approved by an investigation by Cohasset Associates. They have done a compliance assessment, and they tested IBM Storage Ceph against FINRA and SEC rules. And with that, we now have the certification in place for object lock, nice. aka warm in IBM Storage Ceph. So that's one.
Somewhere on the screen here, I'll put a QR code that links out to that Cohasset report, so you can go check it out. It's pretty cool.
That's huge.
It is huge. That's a big deal.
When I was working on Ceph, that was one of the big things. I mean, every time we went into an FSI account, it was like, what's your compliance story? So this is a huge step forward, Marcel, in terms of, the FINRA compliance, the SEC compliance. And, I came from NetApp where I was on Storage Grid, and that was one of the big things we talked about over there too. So really exciting, this new functionality.
Super Absolutely. Cool. And Pete, this also shows that IBM is heavily investing on IBM Storage Ceph also in creating these new capabilities, features, functionalities, etc. So
the sound you hear is all those FSI Watson X customers smiling right now. That's great stuff.
Yeah. Hey, guys, and another thing here is actually the introduction of NFS on top of CephFS. What does that offer? CephFS is our file system in IBM Storage Ceph, of course. And normally this was approached by Linux hosts. Linux host has a driver in each Linux kernel so that it's able to access that CephFS. But imagine you had a non-Linux system. How would you then connect to CephFS? And now we offer this capability by having NFS access to CephFS file systems. And this is done by NFS Ganesha. So it has compatibility with NFS 4.1 offered by Ganesha NFS. And this is new so that also non-Linux hosts, non-native hosts, as we call those, can now connect to CephFS file systems.
Nice.
So that's nice.
That's also another huge story.
Also a big deal. And for that one, I will link to on the screen here an article in Blocks and Files by our buddy Chris Miller, where he highlights this too. So another big one.
Yeah, and this opens new capabilities and use cases. And in Tech Preview, we are working on NVMe over TCP, so NVMe OF over Fabrics also. That's now Tech Preview, so that's not yet fully supported. But that means that in the future, we will have the capability to serve block storage to, for instance, VMware. And that combined with the CephFS NFS capability offers huge new capabilities to address with IBM Storage Ceph. So that's
Marcel, I have to believe the story here is, we already know how great Ceph is, as a storage platform, with the crush algorithm and with the distributed architecture that nobody else has in the industry. And now you're bringing industry standard interfaces like NFS and soon NVMe over TCP. I got to believe the message here is, you get all that, stuff. If you got a legacy environment, you need NFS, or if you're looking at NVMe over TCP, we can do that too. But you get this really awesome architecture at the core that supports it all. Is that part of the key message?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Pete, it offers new functionalities, new capabilities, and all from a single unified cluster that offers file, block, and object storage from a single cluster environment. And that's really good news, because now suppose that you had an object store and you had a system that required NFS for whatever reason, then you needed to have a separate silo for that NFS functionality, and now you can combine it in the single system. So
Yeah.
NFS from one and the same solution, and that's
Awesome.
Yeah, the path forward for Ceph is really bright. It's a very bright future. There's going to be tons of new use cases and new opportunities and new market segments. I think that we're going to be able to penetrate with Ceph. So this is very cool stuff.
Randy, it smells a lot like, remember NetApp when they were coining the term unified storage?
Oh, yeah.
It smells a lot like that, but way better, because you remember Spinnaker at NetApp?
Oh,
they never
yes.
got Spinnaker out the door.
Right.
Ceph is actually the Spinnaker, but we own that now on the IBM side. And so,
yeah, it's great stuff. Really cool.
And talking about ease of use and to have a convenient way of handling Ceph, because some people may think that Ceph is really a complex thing. This is also something that IBM is addressing, because there are a lot of new functionality in the UI, so you can do the more complex things from within the UI without ever touching a CLI. So, and that's good news for system administrators who are used to using these kind of tools in the UI environment. That's now also feasible in Ceph. So that's also part.
Infomercial, go to the Shift Happens channel and look at the Ceph Easy playlist. I'll actually link that on the screen here too, so Absolutely. You can see that in action. It's good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up indeed. Well, other important thing that I would like to share with you is the fact that we also have the capability to do an archiving or migration to public cloud. And that's a policy-based solution. So you can actually archive to public cloud from within IBM Storage Ceph. So that means that you can have files that sit on your on-prem system and that are perhaps not really actual or are untouched for longer term if they are getting older and less frequently accessed. Then you can actually migrate or archive those type of files to public cloud resources like an Amazon AWS S3 bucket or so. And why is this useful? Because then you can free up space on your on-prem cluster of data that you are not frequently using, and you can still have that accessible, but then in a like a cheaper resource, and keep it there for longer term. So that's also a functionality being introduced here with IBM Storage Ceph 7.
ILM never dies. It just changes personalities every couple of years, right?
But Randy, this has got to be a big story for watsonx.data. For sure. And then obviously for everything we're doing around backup and recovery, like this has got to be a prime use case. Like, guys, this is nirvana.
Well, public cloud, I mean, backup has always been the killer app for public cloud, right? So this is an obvious backup and archive. This is an obvious extension of that metaphor. So
now you can tap into your Glacier and Iceberg and all that fun stuff.
Yep. And also good news for tape, which, as we all know,
tape will not die.
Tape will never die. Linear media will continue to be the most cost-effective medium for storing large volumes of data over long periods of time, for sure.
Yep. Yeah,
you could also build that functionality in, because this policy-based migration is, of course, not only against public cloud, but you can also, drive data across different pools. For instance, an SSD pool or a HDD. And then you could combine it with a tape backup, certainly. So, those are all.
Yeah, there's some very cool stuff coming in this domain, which we can't really talk about yet, but stay tuned. Early next year, you'll see some interesting stuff happening in this space that will dovetail very nicely into this story. So cool. So Marcel, this is great stuff. So the 7.0 release GA'd on the 8th of December. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Friday, 8 December, it was GA release. And there is way more to tell, but I would encourage people to have a look at the blog post where everything is in.
I'll link to the blog here somewhere too. That'll be the last link that I share with you guys. Go check it out. Marcel describes this, just in time for the holidays for all of your block and file and object storage needs.
I like your little band emotions, Randy.
Yeah, well, I never know where the thing's going to be, so I have to point everywhere.
And can you believe we're up to episode 55?
I know. I thought we might hit like 60 by the end of the year, but it's okay. We may not, but that's all right. So
I mean, with a little bit of push the past few weeks here, we might be able to get there. Right?
Maybe if we spin out some short episodes, we could cheat. But
we got to do that
anyway. Yeah, right. So Marcel, thanks for jumping on. I know it's a little bit late where you are, so we appreciate your stretching your day to spend some time with us. This is a great release, really exciting. Psyched to be telling people about it. check out the blog. You can get a lot more detail on it. Read the Blocks and Files article if you're in, if you're in the financial services space or healthcare and life sciences or any compliant industry. Check out the Cohasset report. All good stuff. Marcel, thanks. Pete, thanks as always. Thanks everybody for watching. Of course, I'll give my usual disclaimer at the end. If there's any topics that you want us to touch on in the future, please let us know and we'll make sure to get them on the schedule. So that's it for now. Thanks everyone. If we don't see you before the end of the year, have a great Q4. Happy holidays to everyone. And we will talk again soon. Thanks.
Over and out.